Real quick, we've all been vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
Or had a vaccine, right? You've had both, Madison?
I'm actually quite immunized.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're the 2 week girl.
Yeah. And so Brian, I think he said today he had his first, right?
I got mine yesterday. Yeah. So I'm actually still feeling it.
Which vaccine did you get?
I got the Moderna.
Okay.
And I felt absolutely terrible today.
Oh no.
I shouldn't say that. Just woke up with a headache, super tired. Like I still feel like my eyes are not open all the way.
Yeah.
And I was cold earlier. I mean, it's like 80 degrees here. I was walking around in a hoodie.
Yeah.
But I feel fine, just not myself.
For sure. I get that. I was fine after my first shot, and then the second shot knocked me on my ass. I was out for like a day and a half. It was all of the symptoms, like completely everything.
I'm definitely going to reschedule my next one for a Friday. So that way I have the weekend to recover.
That's smart. I'm one of the unicorns that have literally no symptoms.
Because you're a zygote. Your body's like, cool, let's go.
Like, bitch, yeah, let's get those antibodies. No, I don't know. Like I'm like, I think like, of course I'm like a fucking hippie, and I was like, I'm gonna get all the sleep I can. I'm gonna eat super healthy, and like I tried to be as prepared for the vaccines as I could, because I'm just crazy. And yeah, it worked out. I only had the arm tenderness, which it seems like everyone did. The second shot, I think like the next day, there was like 30 minutes where I was like, oh my God, I feel clammy. Oh my God. And I like was like, feel my head. And they were like, you're fine. Like, okay. It's just me. But yeah, no, I really lucked out. I got Pfizer, and I got it like as soon, like that 21st day. I was like, hit me again. Let's go. Yeah, I was very excited, very, very happy and excited to get the shot. You guys got it on the same day, didn't you?
We did, yeah.
And you guys, you're not.
Adam, how was yours? Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say you're not fully immunized yet, but you're like getting there. You have like one more week, I think.
A week and a half.
We'll have a week and a half, at this point.
So yeah, Adam, how was your experience?
I mean, it was the same as how you've heard most people. Like first shot of the Pfizer, no symptoms, everything fine. The second shot, that first day, everything fine. The next day, like basically going to sleep that night, started to have fever, chills, body aches the whole next day. And then by the following day, I was totally fine again. So basically just one bad day.
Isn't it crazy how I think we all forget, like, I mean, we've waited, what, a year and a half almost for this? And everybody in the world is going through the same exact experience. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, are they going through the same exact experience?
No, you're right.
That's a good point, because I was so timely. As soon as I was eligible, I worked for a school, and I had that pleasure of being able to do it earlier than most, and I was like, got that appointment as soon as I could. And I've talked to so many people that are like, maybe, or like, I'm gonna let other people get it first and see how it goes, or like, fuck vaccines, they're trying to microchip us.
Yeah. Ain't nobody care about you sitting on your couch eating Doritos. Like nobody's tracking your moves.
Like licking their fingers from their hot pocket, and they're like, they're giving you processed shit. It's synthetic. Right. You're like, did you just microwave that pizza?
Yeah. You just snort that line of Coke? Oh, okay. No, yeah, but no vaccine.
Yeah, same. So I don't know. I mean, I think our circle, I mean, how do you guys feel? Like my family, all of my family, and like most of my immediate friends, we have a couple friends that are like on the fence, but I would say most of the immediate people in my family and like friends are like stoked to get vaccinated. But I don't know if you guys, I know you guys are from different parts of the world. So I don't know.
We need to have some of those friends who are having second thoughts on to share their opinion, because I personally don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think science is science, and they know way more than I know, and I'm going to trust in that. And I feel like a lot of people have come before me already and gotten the vaccine and had the exact same symptoms and been fine. So I don't have a problem with it. I grew up in Colorado. And so when I posted a picture kind of like excited about the vaccination, the majority of people that I know in California were very supportive, congratulatory. And then I got a couple of like, not like, I don't want to say hate messages, but like almost like somebody commented like a zombie on one picture, like I was gonna die. Another person like commented like on Facebook like a sad face, and then was like, what the hell were you thinking? I'm like,
So wild to me. Like that, it's like, yeah, I don't get it. Like exactly what Brian said. I'm just like,
All right, well, I'm gonna try to go through like because again, I'm the friend of everyone who will do all the research and look up everything
break
and
it down for us.
go through everything. But I think it's interesting because I think we all obviously got the vaccine and we didn't have any trepidation in doing it. I think I understand why people have that little bit of hesitation, and I don't think it really has to do with the idea of so much that they're scared of the vaccine itself more than they're just distrustful of the system.
Yeah.
And I think, being distrustful of the system, the government, how, like whatever you're distrustful of, because things haven't worked out the way that you thought that they should, then instead of, looking at yourself and saying, hey, what could I have done? It's easier to look at the system and go, well, the system's broken. I don't get what I want. The government's against me. It's the Illuminati, obviously. Trump's going to save us. It's kind of the same. I think it stems from the same base of things. And so, and I actually do think, and I kind of equated it to Trump, that like, I think there's more people out there that would tell you that like, yeah, I'm not anti-vax, and, I kind of would do it, but like behind closed doors, they're like, like almost like before Trump was elected, you didn't hear tons of people going, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. It's like, oh, I don't know. I got to weigh the issues. We'll see. And then when they're in the ballot box and they're in there and they're like, no, I'm going to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
They might have said it publicly, but they actually internally knew that that's what they wanted to do. And I think the same thing with people who don't want to do the vaccinations. There's just, I think, an overall mistrust of the system. So like, I guess, what do you guys think about that as just an overall like speaking point?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've had 2 of my aunts are not getting the vaccine. And oh God, it makes me so angry because I'm very close with both of them. One is like crazy hippie vegan, doesn't get any vaccinations, like doesn't do any of that, doesn't fuck with any of that. So I kind of expected that from her. But she was even talking to my mom about it, not trying to convince my mom, but was saying the whole, I distrust the government. Why would we put our trust in the government after they've done all this? And she said like 1/3 of military officers have not gotten the vaccine. And I was like, how does that equate to like, they know?
You're like, really?
Yeah, she was kind of like, if the military doesn't trust our government, should we? And I'm like, that's scary. That like, of course, like our government, like for them, yeah. But I was just like, I don't equate military officials. Like, it's not that I like don't trust their opinion, but it's not like I put them on the level of God where I'm like, oh, if they're not doing it, I'm not doing it. Like,
Right.
It's so ridiculous that was kind of her logic. And then my other aunt is more on the, doesn't trust the government. It's like, I'm going to let the guinea pigs do it for a couple months. And I'm like, all of the healthcare workers have been vaccinated for months now, first of all. Yeah. Second of all, she's like, synthetics. I don't want these synthetic ingredients. And then she's like, they don't even list all the ingredients online. And I'm like, you can literally Google Pfizer ingredients, Moderna ingredients, Johnson & Johnson ingredients, and it comes up. Like the whole ingredient list comes up. So that's malarkey, as our president says. That is like, circulating on Facebook and whatnot. But I loved the synthetic thing because I was like, Claire, how long were you on hormonal birth control for, like your early 20s? Like, you were popping synthetics every day. Like, I don't understand where we're drawing the line at, like, that's too much synthetic. But like, that one serves me because I don't get pregnant. Like, it's like, it's hard. But I do think it comes back to that point of like, people just have so much distrust in the system right now, unfortunately. Where they're thinking, like, people are still thinking COVID, I'm sorry, I'm like getting heated. People still think COVID is like a hoax. Like, I don't, and that's the people that are like, I haven't gotten sick. No one in my family has died. So this is all shit. COVID's not even serious. And you're like, do you not see the numbers climbing daily? Like, thank God we're kind of plateauing right now. We're actually going down, but like millions of lives have been lost. You know, what? So I'll let someone else talk on it. But yes, I totally agree with the mistrust is very frustrating.
Yeah.
I'll jump in there and say, okay, I understand mistrust in the government, but the government can barely get anything done. Tell me what would have to be done for the entire world's governments to align, to fool all of us and create these vaccinations that were going to microchip us or kill us or do anything. And then also, not only would the governments have to align, they would have to align with Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna. Everybody would have to be on the same page to get under this umbrella of conspiracy to like take over the world in some odd way, whatever that is. So that's my 2 cents.
What drives me nuts is that there's no evidence that drives the distrust, right? I mean, I think if a lot of people were dying after getting vaccinated, we'd probably be a little more concerned, right?
Of course.
It's just, the facts just aren't there.
Yeah.
Well, and really to the idea of being like, you know, what benefits you, like everyone said, like you were saying, Madison, the idea that I'll take birth control because it behooves me, but I won't take this, right? So it's kind of like the platform to stand on. Whereas then when you hear those same people, they go, well, but if I can't travel, I'll take it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, your life's at risk, but you want to travel, right? It wouldn't make sense to say that like I would take it if I couldn't travel.
Right.
So really that, to me, that's a core thing of like, well, that means you really don't believe it's a bad thing. It's just your platform to stand on.
And you also don't
No,
and you also don't care about the people around you. Like we have a mutual friend that's like, I wouldn't normally get it, but I will do it to make sure that everybody around me is safe. And that's another factor too. If you really don't give a shit about people around you and you're only thinking about your own like wants and needs, then yeah, that would be your soapbox to stand on.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, Ruth, because I feel like there is a lot of selfishness and obviously privilege, like of people just being like, I'm gonna wait. Like there are people in other countries right now that are like one of my really, really good friends lives in Jakarta, Indonesia. And he's like, they just don't have, like his dad has gotten vaccinated and his sister has gotten vaccinated. And he could pay a lot of money to get one. Like that's at the point, but he's like, it's limited. I stay at home. I'm only going to get it when like sources aren't really limited. Like they're so limited in Indonesia. And I'm like, they're like at the point where they're like, Dodger Stadium, get on in here. Like, you know, like it's wild that people in LA, especially that are like, oh wait, let's see, you know, like, and I wanted to bring up, Adam, you were kind of talking about how like the numbers, and I think Brian spoke on this as well, like Johnson & Johnson today is pulling their shots right now because there were 6 cases of women, 6 cases out of over 1 million that have been distributed, just Johnson & Johnson, but 6 cases have been women with blood clots, and the CDC and the FDA are pulling it just to do extra studies on that. Again, that's huge. Like obviously we don't want anyone experiencing any negative side effects, especially life-threatening ones like a blood clot. But birth control also causes blood clots. So I always bring it back to birth control. No, I'm kidding. But like it's one of those things. They're always connect. No, but it's one of those things where I'm like, they're being so diligent about how people are being affected by this health-wise. So they're pulling this and doing a revamp, recount just to make sure they have everything solid on those blood clots and there's nothing crazy that's about the ingredient list or something for 6 people out of 1 million. Like those numbers right there make me feel secure. Like, and I'm like, and that's the one that's even like less effective than Pfizer and Moderna. So I'm like, if they're doing that, like they didn't start from scratch. They already had vaccines that they were basing this off of with SARS and whatnot. But yeah, I could go on a tirade. I'm sorry, but yeah, long story short, I think they're being so diligent about this, and I don't know where this distrust would come from. Yeah.
No, and again, I think what's a good point to address to that very point, Madison, is the idea that it's not only that they're pulling it and being so diligent. I think it's the counterpoint to what most people say, that these companies are greedy, they're trying to do this. You know, this will affect not only their stock price, but also their ability to, like, I mean, imagine when you're trying to sell this vaccine in another country
Mhm.
and it's already been pulled in America, it will affect the sales that you'll have in every other country that you're trying to sell to.
Mhm.
So if this was about money and microchipping you and killing you, they just would keep going on. And if you could cover up a government conspiracy for this entire process, you could cover up 6 people,
Yeah.
right? And especially when it comes down to the exact number of dollars you're going to have to risk by pulling all of those vaccines after. I think they had to throw away something like 5 million doses
Yeah.
because those were delivered in some kind of bad way.
Yeah.
So meaning this is a major, we're talking about maybe $1 billion effect
Mhm.
for a company like Johnson and Johnson. So not only is it's not only the diligence, it's that it also counteracts the argument that most people would have about their objective, which is to make money.
Yeah, big pharma. Like, I think that's the whole thing too. A lot of people are like, it's big pharma getting together with our government and they're just trying to fuck us, you know? And
Right.
I'm like, yeah, listen, our government is great on
Right.
consumerism and commercialism. Like, we are
Right.
like definitely
Yeah.
subject to that daily. But
Right.
I don't think it's to the extent of microchipping and
Yeah.
or like poisoning or like mind control. I don't like the theories, all of the theories.
Well, it's funny. It brings up something funny to me. Like, then they would start pulling cars because whatever the number is, like 6 out of 100,000 people in a
Right.
car accident,
Yeah.
you would just pull all the cars, right? Because like you wouldn't pull the vaccine, and the idea is that like cops will let people go, like, oh, you weren't wearing your seatbelt, no problem, just do it next time.
Yeah.
But if it was about money and killing you, you would be in jail at this point, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you guys think it stems from? I mean, it sounds tough, but is it ignorance? Is it, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, is it just a lack of education? Is it the inability to see both sides? I can't figure it out.
I mean, in my mind, again, and sorry to kind of like be the guy who's trying to like give the answers about these things, but I purely think it comes down to the idea of we live in a world where we've witnessed the bifurcation of people, that there's people who are so successful, doing so well, have so much power, control, attention. If we're not that person, inherently, I think we have this disposition of, well, why is that? They're no better than me, because I was raised my whole life to believe that I'm just as good as anyone else. So why does Obama or the CEO of Johnson and Johnson or Kim Kardashian or whoever it is get to have what they have? And so instead of accepting the fact that maybe we didn't work hard enough, we weren't trying hard, like we'd rather blame things. So the easy answer is that it's easier to say the government's trying to kill me than to go work hard and build a business. It's easier to say that, there's these conspiracies and the Illuminati's controlling this, and that's why I can't get a good job. It's easier. So we tend as human beings to default to easy. So if you almost look at any answer for almost anything, the answer is going to be that it happened because it's an easier thing. So people would rather say, no, it's not me, because just like Madison was bringing up, like if you're her aunt, you could easily look up the ingredients online. How come you didn't spend the 30 seconds to do a Google search, right? And every time I have these types of conversations with people, I always say, look, I've done thousands of hours of research on this kind of stuff, right? Just do 30 minutes, do an hour, and I'll give you a week. We'll come back, we'll have the same conversation. 0 people have ever done it. 0 have ever been. And I'm like, do 10 minutes.
Right.
A person won't spend 10 minutes to go, let me look up the ingredients. Let me see what this is about. Let me see how it happened. They'll come up with, oh, well, how'd they make the vaccine so fast? Well, what about Bill Gates? Why did he do this TED talk? You can come up with these very quick, off the top of your head, things that you can say are the reasons, but then you won't spend 10, 20, 30 minutes doing one Google search. So the answer is always, it's just easier to attribute your life, your loss to those things.
I also think there's a lot that deals with like it is with politics, because like you'll see the prevalent like groups of people that really are against it are in like a Republican centric area, and that it's the politics have gotten involved in this. And then in addition to that, anytime I go home and I watch the news, the energy and the way you even hear the news delivered in different areas is very different. And I don't know if that affects people's thoughts on it at all, but you're seeing more chunks of people. Like, I remember when I was first looking for the vaccine, somebody told me to go to Riverside because it was mainly Republican, and they were like, people aren't going to get their shots. So go and take advantage.
Makes sense. That's
Yeah, that's 1000% right. Like Bakersfield,
Yeah.
It was just huge. Like they were like, if you got a license, come on in. Like for the last 3 weeks, and you know, not even unethically, they were like, we've an overabundance of shots right now. Anyone who is willing to drive out to Bakersfield, we will give a shot to. And that's how my sister's boyfriend got one. And it is wild. I think I relate in the sense of what Adam said about the lazy, like utter laziness of just seeing information. And I think it pairs with what you were saying, Ruth, of like the media that you're consuming. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. I mean, some people still watch the news. Like my dad still watches the news, but we try to keep it as like linear, you know, and like nonpartisan. But I think on Facebook, especially, or Twitter or Instagram, when you're surrounded by people of like-minded things, you know, like I saw a guy that I was not like-minded with today on my Instagram that posted on his close friends list, which I'm like, I don't know how I made it on this. But I'm like, all right, dude, I'm gonna unfollow you. Is he put like the vaccination card, and it was like where you put what the shot was, it said nah, and then for like the name, it was like get the fuck out of here, and I was like, oh, you're really clever. Yeah. Oh man, what a sexy man. Yeah. Me that you don't want to get vaccinated. I was just like, oh my God, like, what is going on? But it's like, I think they see this on Facebook or they see it on Instagram and they see their friends like, fuck Moderna, fuck Pfizer, I'm not gonna get it. They're trying to mind control us, bitch. I'm not gonna do it.
I saw somebody posted a video where she's like, just got vaccinated. She goes, Bill Gates? I won $1,000.
Right? And I think we've talked about this on another episode, but I always find it so funny that people are like, the government is trying to control us. They want everything on us. I'm like, what if you were born in the United States, you were given a number at if you have a license or an ID, your photo's in the system, bitch. They can find you. Like there's not like, I just think it's funny that like one vaccine, they think like, oh, we're microchip, they're gonna find us, they're like location services. I'm like, your Facebook is stalking you way more than your government. Like your Instagram is listening to you talk about a product and it's giving you an ad. Like you should be more concerned about that than the fucking microchipping or potential microchipping, I should say, of a Pfizer vaccine. I don't know.
Does anybody think there's like a religion aspect involved in this? Because like I know I haven't heard this yet, but I know like I heard it growing up, like the mark of the beast, and like the world is going to be asked to do something, and if you can't, then like you'll be like restricted, or you'll be restricted, and like da da da.
Potentially, I think
that's gonna come.
I think there's like a purism in religion a lot. Like I'm not baptized whatsoever. Like my parents were both the first children baptized for like the sake of my grandparents to like not have a heart attack. And by the time they had me, they were like, fuck that. Like, and I remember some of my East Coast family like learning later in my life that I was never baptized. And they were like they fully know that my family is not religious in the slightest. And they were like, but you're not baptized? No. And they were like, you better get on that. And I was like, I'm good, I'll go to hell. Like I was just like, I don't know, like I don't understand. Yeah. So I think yes, the purism, like the purity of like, this is God's given body. Like he gave this to you. If he wanted you to get COVID, he would. Like that is fucking crazy. Yeah. But Adam, my exact.
I think there actually was like this pastor that threw this huge Christian concert during COVID, and on the stage was like, I will not, like God won't let me get COVID. And then I think he did get COVID, right?
I think so, yeah.
He was a super spreader. Like
I hate to laugh about that because COVID is not a joke.
Yeah, no, but still, it's ignorance of it.
Karma's a bitch. Like, I don't know what else to say other than like, especially having a super spreader event like that, like so irresponsible. I'm just like, like I think it was in my hometown too, which is like great.
You know what's funny though? It kind of reminds me, and it makes me think of this bigger picture thought of like, sometimes even with blaming religion or the media, all these things, even that kind of becomes the easiest thing, right? Because if you think about it, the media kind of just gives you what you want, right? So if you stopped watching all the negative stuff, like those networks would stop playing it. If you stop believing all the crazy things you heard at church, the pastor would literally stop saying it, because the demand of the market would be, if I say these things and no one shows up, I'll say different things. If you're not turning on the channel to Fox News or CNN or whatever it is, we'll say whatever you want. So is part of this that like it becomes an echo chamber, that whoever the people who are watching these things or absorbing these things, it's not that it's the source that's giving you something that you're then absorbing, is that they're giving you what you already have predetermined that you want, and it keeps that cycle going more so than the other way.
I mean, that's true across so many different factors, like not even just like this. It's like a lot of things that we complain about or against. Like somebody even told me even in investing to look at like what any company you invest in, to like look at what their background is or what they're putting their money towards or what they believe in. Because if you want to focus on what your beliefs are, to like make sure you're even investing in the companies that align with your beliefs.
Well, I guess in that example, what are your beliefs?
I think it depends on this different topics. Like, I mean, like we're talking about obviously the vaccine right now, but I mean, like for somebody that believes in LGBTQ rights, like making sure like the companies are aligned in that and believe in that and stand behind them, or if they believe in like animal rights or like anything along those lines, or they're green.
Yeah, you don't necessarily want to be aligned with a company that like donates to conversion camps. You know, you're like, oh, okay, like that's definitely not something I want to align myself
Gonna
with.
take that. No money for you.
But yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, Adam.
All right. Well, how about as far as like, I guess, other things, right? So I guess so I did a bunch of research on like, you know, some of the normal topics that people would talk about, like, well, how do they make this so fast, or you know, how does it actually work, or how does it affect the body? And again, you know, what was interesting to me to kind of learn was that the technology that we've built over the years has enabled us to do certain things much faster. So we don't look at, you know, I don't know, a computer or a video game system and go, well, how did they make it so fast? Like it's been developing, right? So that it gets faster because we get better at it, right? And what I did learn, which is really interesting, is that traditionally vaccines would always be a replication of a virus or a piece of that actual virus. But in this case, what they did with especially the Pfizer and the Moderna was that they took the mRNA versus the DNA of the actual virus. And because you're only taking the code of the virus versus the actual virus, you can make that much quicker. And so what one person gave was this concept that you're basically giving the instruction manual versus the actual finished product. And then I think I told Ruth at one point, like, it's almost like you go to IKEA and you buy furniture versus going to, you know, Crate and Barrel or Restoration Hardware. It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's easier because they didn't build it for you, right? They just put all the pieces together, gave you the instructions, you go, you build it yourself. That's kind of like how are they able to make a chair or a table cheaper? Well, because they didn't build it, they didn't have to have the infrastructure. So the mRNA, the instructions of the virus, is cheaper and easier and quicker to make than the actual virus. And then even when you make that, then you have to transport it fully built, just like the furniture, just like everything else. So you can only transport so many tables that are fully built versus the slabs of the tables just sitting in boxes with screws. So, you know, it was such a really good visual to think about it that way and say, you know, well, the last virus made in 4 years, how they do this one in 1? Well, we're better at making them. We have the entire world working on it at the same time. And we're only making the instructions versus making the thing.
And that's exactly what research gets you.
Amen.
Makes sense, right? I mean, you know, if you think about it, it does make sense.
Yeah. No,
I loved that description so much, because to me it was like for me to understand that visual, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. My body is building the vaccinate, or like that's why it takes 2 weeks for us to fully be covered, because your body's building that inside of you. And even having the symptoms, your body's reacting to build that barrier for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where there are variants as far as like reactions. You know, I think sometimes our body is like used to certain things more than others, you know, and like our counterparts. And I think yeah, it was such a palpable description as far as like, oh, this is what they're giving us. And this
Yeah.
is, yeah, because I know so many people, like my best friend is pre-med right now, and she's also getting her PhD. So she's crazy. She's doing MD and PhD program. And she's been thrilled. They've been like learning about the vaccines and all of their history. And yeah, they like gave it to them very early because they're med students, and now she's actually administering them. And she like hit me very early. Was like, girl, you got any questions, you let me know. And it was like so exciting. Not that I was like, fucking, let's go. But I was very excited to like pick her brain about certain things, and you know, just even the concept of herd immunity. And I think that's what a lot of people are ignoring. And again, it goes back to that selfishness, or that like, if it doesn't benefit me, or like I can hold off and wait, when it's like, no, you can't hold off and wait, because we need herd immunity to get over all of these variants of COVID, you know. And yeah, it's a little frustrating that so many people just don't have like that urgency. And not that I want you to do your research. Like if you're really on the fence, and you're really, do what Adam said, do 30 minutes where you're looking into it. If you think that they don't have the ingredients listed, and then you do a 30-second Google search and you see it, you go, oh, my friend was lying. Okay. Well, you know, it's like, do those things so that you can feel more comfortable about it. But there is a sense of urgency to it. We're trying to get over this as like the United States as well as the world. And I think people should be doing their part right now. I think it's bigger than all of us individually, and not everyone's thinking about it in that way.
Yeah. Well
I bet a large portion of the people not getting vaccinated were also people like, I don't need to wear a mask. Why? I'm so uncomfortable. Like, okay.
Yeah. Or they like specifically like always keep
It underneath their nose. Yeah.
Just like I just I'm now like the mad dog, like in the fucking grocery store. That's like, like so angry, because it's like they have to like purposely scrunch it so it's not here. Like I've never had a mask fall below my nose. I've never, like genuinely, like even if you're talking, it kind of, but like never to the point where it's like here, and you're like, like you
breathing
have
on people.
it's crazy to me. I saw a guy today at the grocery store, like the person that was checking out the woman took off her mask at one point to talk to her husband, who was less than a foot from her. And I was like, he can hear you. I don't know why you're taking off your mask. But then the like man that was helping them out also, like literally his mask was like this, like it was like barely covering his mouth. And I was like, sir, like you're working in a grocery store. Like I want your like safety and others. Like it shouldn't be this hard. I don't know. I get angry. I'm obviously very angry by many of these topics.
One thing that I think that showed us all is how divided people are. But you know what drives me nuts? I mean, it's like Adam, you said earlier, you know, some people were just born with certain belief systems, right? And that's totally fine, totally understandable. What drives me nuts is people forcing those belief systems on you or others. You know, like nobody will ever know where I stand on politics or on police brutality or on anything, because, you know, it's stuff I'll discuss with my close friends, but I don't think social media is necessarily the right place for it. I think the same thing with COVID. I mean, you see, like Ruth, you were saying earlier, you know, you posted a picture and now you got to deal with all these comments and people's opinions. And, you know, I don't think your intention is to go in there and fight anyone.
Yeah.
But I will. No, I'm kidding.
But you know.
You know, the ironic thing is that I had told someone I haven't been going back to my gym that I love going to. And one of the owners of the gym was like, we miss you. You got to come back. And I was like, I know, I miss you guys. I got to see you. And I was like, don't worry. Once I get vaccinated, I'm going to feel much more comfortable. And they were like, do your research. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I thought that was so funny, because back to Adam's point, it's like, are you doing your research? Like they were telling me like, honey, do your research before you get that shot. And like, and acting also like I hadn't already done the research, but I had at that point, but I was like, no, I have, thank you. And I feel very comfortable with this next step. And that's like how I responded. Like, can't wait. Like,
Yeah.
I was just, yeah, it was dumbfounding to me that even someone told me, I know I just kind of said this 10 minutes ago, where I was like, do your research, but I'm saying it more from like, if you're skeptical and you want to, I'm not like, you don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, they had told me, they were like, do your research.
You let me worry about me.
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
all right.
Well, no, and it's funny how it's always the people who probably do the least amount of research that will say that. And also too, again, regardless of how much research any four of us do, we haven't done as much as Dr. Fauci. We haven't done as much as any virologist anywhere in the United States.
Yeah.
So a person who didn't graduate high school happens to know more than a virologist from Harvard. I don't know how that happened.
I
Like,
know.
do your research. That to me, and this is where I get a little bit annoyed and upset, is that the arrogance of a person who's never researched anything medical, pharmacological, in virology, anything ever. Now this comes, it's like, okay, I don't know, 3 months in, you know what's happening. Oh, the guy who was studying it for 50 years, who's done nothing else but understand how spike proteins bind to cells, like shit you've never heard of, that person's wrong.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah.
And your research that you did on a message board trumps what he did at, Yale Medical and Harvard and, all the, and that's inconceivable to me. That is the one thing I'm like, I rarely say I don't know, but that's the thing I'm just like, how can you possibly
Yeah.
be? And again, in my mind, the answer has to be that it doesn't have to do with knowing. It has to do with like what we've all said, wanting. Because the minute I want to have sex, I'll take birth control. The minute I want to travel, I'll get the vaccine. The minute that I want to go to the store, I'll wear a mask. So you're not being consistent about your belief, because really it only comes down to what you want.
Mhm.
And that's the only answer to understand how someone could say someone's life work they've only done.
Mhm.
Your thought trumps that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It's convenience too, like you were saying. It's like,
Jesus.
I do want to go to the Bahamas this year. So
Right.
I guess
Well, if I have to, yeah.
I bet they like United makes me get a vaccine.
Common
Okay.
sense isn't so common.
Yeah. Yeah. Reddit forums though make people think that they're fucking doctors at this point. And yeah, you're right. As far as like Fauci goes, like we love this man, obviously, like thank God. And like just the horror he faced in the last administration is just so sad to
Well,
me.
and my point about that is like, okay, say even if you don't like Fauci, let's say, and I've given this example in other arenas, but the idea is, even if he's wrong, him being wrong is more right than you're right, because his wrong is based in 50 years of study. So if he's wrong, he's basing his wrong in something that's been developed over so many years and ever. Whereas your wrong is based on a thought, a hunch, a rumor. Like that's the difference of like, we all think, and this is where, again, I want to do definitely a different like kind of rant show about this, but this idea that because I have a personal thought or feeling or ideology, it's equal to everybody else in the world. And that's just not true. Like, you don't know as much about finance as Warren Buffett. You don't know as much about virology as Dr. Fauci. You don't know as much about politics as Barack Obama. Like, you don't know any of those things as much as any of those people, even when they're wrong. Even when they're at their wrongest, you don't know.
Yeah.
That shit's crazy to believe that you do, or even if you go, oh, I don't know, but this is my opinion. It's like, your opinion is not equal to their opinion in that domain.
Yeah.
It's not equal.
Tell him that.
I think Adam's
It's not equal.
right now for the first time.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Like-
But it's true, because it's like, I mean, think about how arrogant you'd have to be to go, yeah, the pilot, he's just flying it wrong. And you're like, oh, that guy who's been doing this for 50 years, like, well, what is he doing? Why is it so bumpy? Yeah, I'm sure he would do everything he could. Like these kinds of thoughts, like you have a thought and that trumps somebody's life or 50 years of study or experience. That is where I think we have to get to a place where we go, listen, like, you can believe internally, but now go do some work.
Yeah.
Because it's not equal. We are equal. We like to believe that we're equal as human beings, and we are, but we're not equal in our education of virology or aerodynamics or we're not equal. We're not equal. We're not equal. That's not equal. So that's annoying to me, because it flies in the face of all the work that people give to do what they do, that like, you know, a physicist who spends 60 years trying to understand how gravity works, and you go, well, you know, it's a hoax, bro. And you're like, you're basically telling this person or these people who've spent hundreds of years, thousands of years, and their entire lives studying something, doing something, working on something, your thought is equal.
Yeah.
That shit's crazy.
It's arrogance.
It's crazy. Like, I'm so glad you brought that up.
I gotta get drunk, bro.
Yeah, he's doing that right now.
No, it's so true.
That's synthetic, Adam. I don't know if you want to put it in your body.
Yeah, you don't want that shit in your body. But yeah,
I threw a Pfizer vaccine inside of it. Don't worry.
oh my God, that's so funny. But you're right. Like the lack of self-awareness in general. I think
It's true arrogance. It's
Yeah.
That's true arrogance at its pure definition. That's arrogant.
yeah, but they think that they're experts or that they are equal to anyone who's like an actual expert in those fields.
Well, you again, even worse, you think your opinion on a whim
Mhm.
equals someone's 50 years of study and research and thought and experiment and
Yeah, your intuition too. Yeah, it was so funny. Like even my aunt, when we were talking to her, we've been trying to convince her for the last couple of weeks, like lovingly and like giving her the information that we know. And I'm like, and I even offered, I was like, call Mac, because she knows Mac, my best friend, really well. I was like, she'll openly answer any single question you have. And I was like, and eloquently, like this woman knows. And she was like, okay. And she's talking about like maybe she's like, yeah, well, I'm like kind of feeling the Johnson & Johnson if I'm gonna do one. And I was like, what? And I just found that so funny and arrogant that she was like, I feel like connected to Johnson & Johnson, so I think I'm gonna do that one. And I was like, yeah, like obviously we might have our preferences on our research, but again, she hasn't done her research. So I was just like, what about, and she was like, well, it's like a one and done. Like I'll
well,
be done.
exactly. It was easier.
Yeah, like I was like, okay. I was like, I get that. And if you can get the Johnson & Johnson, awesome. Like go off, like please. But I was also like, I'm pretty sure Fauci multiple times has said also trusting the science, back to what Ruth said, like trusting the science, trusting the science, trusting the science. He was like, any vaccine is a good vaccine. Like any vaccine that you can get your hands on in the immediate future is the best vaccine for you. Like we shouldn't be like going out and like, yeah, I don't know. But it was just so funny that she was like, I just feel more in line with Johnson & Johnson. I was like, oh, my aunt. Oh, my aunt. We all have family members that, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah, I think it is wild that people are, yeah, their whim or their intuition or their calling is at the same level of, yeah, the experts. It isn't. Spoiler alert.
Just put that as like a warning at the end of this video. Like it isn't.
It'd be like the SpongeBob like rainbow thing where it's like
Ryan, it's on you.
I like what you said about self-awareness. We need to have a whole separate conversation on that. I think that's like the most important thing in life.
I would love to have a conversation about that. That is one of my favorite topics, and it's one of the sexiest things about someone. I will say, like, no matter their gender identity, like if someone is like fucking self-aware, you're like, damn. Like I just get like so excited when I meet self-aware people because it's such a strength, and it's also it's so helpful for people around them. And yes, I would love to have it.
Yeah, let's get that on the schedule for sure.
Let's do it.
Any final thoughts, guys?
What was that?
Any final thoughts? Anything else that like maybe is annoyed you guys about people or anything?
People are dumb. I know it sounds terrible, but I mean, people are dumb.
Yeah. I think there's just like misinformation, like back to kind of what Brian said. I think I get concerned with the misinformation. And I've talked to a couple of people that have said, well, I had COVID a couple months ago. So
I hear that all the time.
Yes. So they're like, I'm going to wait. And they're like, and I'm like, okay. And they're like, they're really stretching out that like antibody study that has said it's typically 3 months of antibodies, but it can, in some cases, go to 8 months. Everyone's hearing that 8 months, and they're like, I got antibodies for 8 months, bitch. And you're like, okay, first of all, variants. Second of all, no. Third of all, like, I just think so many people, I've talked to multiple people that are like, I'm going to wait because I had COVID back in November, October. I'm like,
Well, people will say that didn't even test positive for COVID. That just like they were like sick, and they're like, I think I had COVID, so I'm sure I'm fine. And I'm like,
wait. I think a lot of people just need to like kind of stop waiting at this point. In the sense of like, again, back to that urgency. If you are on the fence, I highly recommend talking to someone that I don't even know. Do your research. I was gonna say talk to someone that might know better than you, but then they might go to that person that's like conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I don't want you to do that. Do as much like nonpartisan research that you can do if you're really worried about the media infiltrating your interpretation of it. But yeah, I think time is of the essence right now, especially with vaccinations, especially with how much we have available in the United States right now. I think almost all states are 16 and up now. I think we're only missing a couple, right?
I think you're right.
So,
Yeah, I think we have like 4 or 5 that are not yet. But yeah, I think it's available. People are happy to give it. Like I also, every site that I've been to, I went with my mom and I went by myself to mine. Everyone is so nice. You can ask the people there the questions. The doctors are absolutely there to help you and inform you more. If you're nervous, I've seen so many of the nurses and the administrators of the shot be like, oh, it's okay, just breathe. I'm gonna do this really quick. Also, this was the easiest shot I've ever received. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. It didn't feel like, it felt like a breath of air on my arm. So like genuinely, time is of the essence. I recommend getting your shot if you're on the fence, please. That's my closing thought. Anyone else?
I'll add on to that and just say, as you're researching, to also make sure you're getting it from proper sources. Like even during COVID, I had people, again from Colorado, sending me videos of a nurse saying COVID wasn't real, but the title was like, hurry before YouTube takes this video down again. So it was rifled with misinformation, hence why it kept getting taken down, but people were using it as a source of information, saying that was their reasoning to say COVID wasn't real.
Yeah, that's wild. And I think, again, say there is 3% of nurse practitioners or nurses that are not getting COVID vaccinations, but the other 97% are doing that. Like, why are people like, oh, these 3% are not doing it? Like it's so wild to me. Like I've seen a lot of that are like, some doctors aren't getting the vaccine, and you're like, what's that percentage? And well, some.
Think about how educated that 97% is.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, obviously, yeah.
Well, and again, just to your point about the idea of like the military officers, right? Like 1/3, that means 2/3 did. And we also don't know the reason why the 1/3 didn't, right? Were they recently injured? Were they at high risk because of age? Were they had alternate conditions? I mean, again, there's so many variables that people don't know, but as we're all talking about this, what it's making me think is like, yeah, sure, go out, talk to people, do research, all that kind of stuff. But maybe even more importantly, like really ask yourself, like, what's the internal motivation to believe or not believe anything, right? Because I do think we live in a world now where there's so much information and misinformation that we really don't, like, who could tell anybody else how to sift through good versus bad? Because if there's 100 pieces of good, 100 pieces of bad, we really don't know how to differentiate between that nurse who says, hey, it's really bad, it's going to kill you, and they took it down, and you go, oh, is that a sign? Like, maybe the thing before you even look up anything is to think, what's my motivation to believe or not believe? What do I believe internally is the greater good of what I would think the motivation behind any person, company, government, whatever, doing any one thing, and why do I think that? Because then maybe that affects a little bit more of our research. Because yeah, if I just listen to 10 people say no and 10 people say yes, then I have no idea. But if I go, well, why did those people say no, and why did those people say yes, and what was the ramification of each one, and what was in it for those people? then maybe I can get closer to clear. Now, again, that takes more work, but another saying I've always had has been like, you can never fully trust anyone who is trying to make, money off of you in a specific way. So you go to a car dealership and the guy goes, this is a great model. Like, you can trust them, but you can never fully. And so at what point do we say with a person who's trying to get YouTube views or trying to build a conspiracy theory, or a doctor who doesn't make an extra dollar, like Fauci won't get rich off of this, just FYI, right? Like, he's not going to make $1 million because he told you to get a vaccine. So who's more credible, the person who's trying to build their YouTube views, and again, then the conspiracy person can say, well, he's getting paid by the government, but like, try to understand why you actually even believe that in the first place, and then ask the question maybe.
Yeah.
Because research is hard, and maybe it's the motivation of why you want or not want to believe something.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Khalil. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I definitely want you to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more content like this. But if this content had any value to you, click the like button as well.